In this video, I'll be describing 7 methods for activating the chakras and the astral senses. These 7 techniques are from the book, Knowledge of the Higher World and Its Attainment, by Austrian mystic Rudolf Steiner. Steiner said that certain exercises enable the soul to attain to a conscious intercourse with the spiritual world. The chakras develop using certain formulae. If they have developed, the human being is able to perceive the spiritual world. This is the same world which he enters when he walks through the gate of death. Method 1. Growing or decaying. Direct your attention to life that is budding, growing, and flourishing, and on the other hand, all phenomena connected with fading, decaying, and withering. For blooming, I find it easiest to focus on flowering plants, and for decaying, I use dead leaves and branches. Just find whatever you can in your environment. Wherever you observe a definite kind of blooming and flourishing, focus totally on this one impression. Don't think, feel. Whatever you feel, allow this feeling to reverberate quietly within yourself while keeping inwardly totally still. Immerse yourself in your soul's feeling of this flourishing or decaying. Steiner says that if the necessary tranquility is attained, and you surrender yourself to the feelings which arise, then thoughts and feelings of a new unknown kind will be noticed in your soul. The more often the attention is fixed alternately upon something growing, blossoming, and flourishing, and then upon something else that is fading and decaying, the more vivid these feelings will become. And just as the eyes and ears of the physical body are built naturally, so will the organs of clairvoyance build themselves out of the new feelings that arise. Method 2. The first method was seeing. This second exercise is hearing. Focus on sounds. You must discriminate between sounds that are produced by lifeless objects, for instance, a bell or a musical instrument, and from sounds made by living creatures, such as an animal or a human being. When you hear a bell being rung, you might connect a pleasant or unpleasant feeling with it. But when you hear the cry of an animal, you can detect the manifestation of an inward experience of the animal, which could be pleasure or pain. It is this kind of sound that you focus on. Concentrate your whole attention on the fact that the sound tells you something that lies outside your own soul, and is occurring within the soul of another. Immerse yourself in this. Totally merge your own feelings with the pleasure or pain of which the sound tells you. You must get beyond the point of caring whether the sound is pleasant or unpleasant, agreeable or disagreeable, and your soul must be filled with whatever is occurring in the being making the sound. This implants a new faculty in your world of thought and feeling. Through this exercise, you will develop within yourself the faculty of intermingling with another. Method 3. Internal silence during conversations. The technique is, when listening to someone, be totally still inside. Don't agree or disagree, don't react at all. Just be still. Be especially on the lookout for visceral reactions. You must be totally still inside, whilst hearing what is being said. Don't space out. Be present. Steiner acknowledged this is a difficult practice, especially when we disagree with the speaker. He suggested that initially it is too difficult to practice this all the time, so choose easier situations and people to practice with. When these exercises are practiced in connection with the others already given, especially dealing with the sounds of nature, the soul develops a new sense of hearing. You are then able to perceive manifestations from the spiritual world which normally can't be heard. The perception of the inner word awakens. To quote Steiner, a very great importance for the development of the student is the way in which he listens to others when they speak. He must accustom himself to do this in such a way that, while listening, his inner self is absolutely silent. Only to those who by selfless listening, train themselves to be really receptive from within, in stillness, unmoved by personal opinion or feeling, only to such can the higher being speak. As long as one hurls any personal opinion or feeling against the speaker to whom one must listen, the beings of the spiritual world remain silent. Method 4. Observe different natural objects in a particular way, for instance, a beautifully formed stone and an animal. You should endeavor, at first, to direct your whole attention to a comparison of the stone with the animal in the following way. Say to yourself, the stone has a form, the animal also has a form. The stone remains motionless in its place. The animal changes its place. It is instinct, desire, which causes the animal to change its place. Instincts are served by the form of the animal. Its organs and limbs are fashioned in accordance with these instincts. The form of the stone is not fashioned in accordance with desires, but in accordance with desireless force. By sinking deeply into such thoughts, and while doing so, observing the stone and the animal with rapt attention, there arise in the soul two quite separate kinds of feelings. From the stone, there flows into the soul the one kind of feeling, and from the animal, the other kind. The thoughts here mentioned should pass through your soul accompanied by vivid feelings, and no other thought, no other feeling, must mingle with them, and disturb what should be an intensely attentive observation. The attempt will probably not succeed at first, but little by little, with genuine and patient practice, these feelings arise. This exercise must be practiced over and over again. At first the feelings are only present as long as the observation lasts. Later on, they continue, and then they grow to something which remains living in the soul. Method 5. Place before you the small seed of a plant. In the first place, clearly grasp what you really see with your eyes. Describe to yourself the shape, color, and all other qualities of the seed. Then, let your mind dwell upon the following train of thought. Out of the seed, if planted in the soil, a plant of complex structure will grow. Then build up this plant in your imagination, and reflect as follows. What I am now picturing to myself in my imagination will later be enticed from the seed by the forces of earth and light. But if I had before me an artificial object which imitated the seed, no forces could produce from it a plant. If you thoroughly grasp this thought so that it becomes an inward experience, you will also be able to form the following thought and couple it with the right feeling. All that will ultimately grow out of the seed is now secretly enfolded within it as the force of the whole plant. But in an artificial imitation of a seed there is no such force present. And yet, both appear alike to your eyes. The real seed, therefore, contains something invisible, which is not present when just seeing it. It is on this invisible something that you must concentrate your thoughts and feelings. Realize that this invisible something will transmute itself later into a visible plant, which you will have before you. Ponder on the thought, the invisible will become visible. Know that if you could not think, then that which will only become visible later, could not already make its presence felt to you. If this method is accomplished in the right way, then after a time, possibly not until after numerous attempts, an inner force will make itself felt. This force will create new powers of perception. Method 6. As a further exercise to follow on from the one just described, observe a plant that is fully grown. Now fill your mind with the thought that the time will come when this plant will wither and die. Nothing will be left of what you now see before you. But realize, this plant will develop seeds. These seeds will develop to new plants. So once again, become aware that in what you see, something lies hidden, which is unseen. Fill your mind entirely with the thought that this plant with its form and colors will in time be dead and gone. But the knowledge that it produces seeds teaches you that it will not disappear into nothing. So there is something in the plant which your eyes cannot see. If you let this thought live within you, and if the corresponding feeling is coupled with it, then over time there will again develop in your soul a force, which will ripen into a new perception. Method 7. Remember some person that you may have observed when they were filled with desire for an object or person. Direct your attention to this desire. Try to recall the moment when their desire was at its height, and it was still uncertain whether they would attain what they wanted. Now totally fill your mind with this memory, and reflect on what you can observe. Maintain the utmost inner tranquility. Make the greatest possible effort to be blind and deaf to everything that may be going on around you, and wait for a feeling to awaken in your soul. Allow this feeling to rise in you, like a cloud on the cloudless horizon. The attempt will most likely fail hundreds and hundreds of times. It is just a question of not losing patience. After many attempts, you will succeed in experiencing a feeling in you, corresponding to the state of soul of the person observed. And you will begin to notice that through this feeling, a power grows in you that leads to spiritual insight into the state of others. A picture that you experience as luminous will appear in your field of vision. This spiritually luminous picture is the so-called astral embodiment of the desire that you observed in the other person's soul. Let's finish with a quote from Steiner. It should be emphasized that the student must never lose himself in speculations on the meaning of one thing or another. Such intellectualizing will only draw him away from the right road. He should look out on the world with keen, healthy senses and quickened power of observation, and then give himself up to the feeling that arises within him. He should not try to make out the meaning of things through intellectual speculation, but rather allow the things to disclose themselves.